By now we should be familiar with the UI router, configuration of its states, UI views, etc. One of the main benefits of using UI router is that we can take advantage of multiple views feature. We can have multiple states as part of your application, and each of those states can have their UI to be actually rendered in multiple views if really necessary. So let us see on how we can achieve it. So before even jumping into multiple views, just let us quickly understand what exactly is UIView. So an UIView is nothing but a simple markup element which will be available as part of your application, and that markup element will have an attribute called UIView. So you can just say this is the container of all the UI which is supposed to be rendered as part of the new state to which you are going to switch to. So which means if you are switching from one state to another, the new state related UI is what is going to be injected as part of this particular UI view. Next, there can be multiple elements of UI view in the markup. So till now, in all of my previous examples or in my previous videos, we have been just working with one UI view. But in fact, UI router allows us to have multiple UI view elements as part of your application, and that too if necessary. Quick note, multiple views is not a feature supported as part of ng-route. So if you are using ng-route or Angular router but not UI router, make sure that it doesn't work with multiple views. So UI view and multiple views are available only through UI router. Okay, every view can be named. So which means just imagine you are having too many number of UI views as part of your markup, and there is no easy way to identify each of them. So if you would like to have your particular UI views to be named or identified, you have to provide that particular name as part of your attribute name and value specification for the respective UI view. So by providing the names for those UI views, you can easily target or identify those views and assign or associate those views with your states and have your templates to be actually rendered in the respective UI views in the way you really want it for. Okay, so let us see about the state and how we can associate multiple views with a state. Every state configuration will have a view section. So till now we have not been working with view section at all. So we have been working just with simple state configuration like URL, template, URL controller, resolution, and so on. But a state can also have a separate view section if necessary. So this is pretty important. If you do not specify any kind of view section, it will be automatically defaulted to an unnamed view. So which means if you have your UI view specified as part of your markup with no name associated with that, then that will be treated as a default view for your particular state configuration, and the template gets automatically rendered as part of that UI view which has not been named at all. So whether you write your code in this way or in this way mean the same. So in this case you are saying these are all the list of views I have in place. Of course you have only one view in this case, and you are saying that please display this template and associate that template with this controller and get the UI out of it and get that UI directly inside this name. So that is the UI view name. So right now I did not specify any UI name, and that is the reason it actually tries to figure out if there exists any UI view which has got no name in our markup, and if it finds one, then this template gets rendered as part of that UI view. Okay, every view in view section can have its own template and controller associated exclusively for that UI view. So this is pretty important. In this case I have only one view definition, but as I mentioned, the view section can have multiple views to be defined in here, and each of those views can have their own templates or template URLs and their own controllers. So every view can have their own controllers and templates, and of course those templates will be always displayed as part of those UI view names whatever you specify right here. A state can show multiple views. This is what I was saying from the beginning. A state can have a view section, and that view section can define multiple views. So in this case I am saying that this is the template which needs to be displayed as part of the UI view which is named as EMP header, and this is another template, that is EMP List, which should get all the information from the controller, and once it receives the data from the controller, figure out and render the UI directly into another UI view which is named as EMP List. So which means in this case I will be having two UI views with the names EMP Header and EMP List respectively as part of my markup, and those templates will be automatically displayed or rendered into those UI views with the respective names. And as mentioned, defined in views section, so that is pretty important. A state can show multiple views, and of course every particular view has to be defined as part of the views section. And the next thing is that every view is associated to single UI view. So this whole part, so which means whatever you configure as part of this view will be automatically thrown into only one UI view. You cannot have multiple UI views with the same name to be specified here. It doesn't make sense. Multiple states can reuse UI views. So this is one of the most powerful features. That is, you can see I have one state which is configured as employees, and I have another state which is configured as employee details. But if you see, I have two views with the same name. So, but those views are not configured as part of the same state though. Those are different in the form of states. So if I switch to this state, that is the employee state, I'm saying that please show two views, and each of those views have their respective content displayed from their own templates. And from here I can switch to another state called employee details, and this is going to show two different views again, replacing everything else whatever it has shown earlier. And these two views now contain two different templates or the UI related to those particular templates. Again, in this case I'm actually using the same template for the UI view, but it doesn't need to be the same case in all scenarios. So each of those views, even though you are trying to reuse, can have different templates if really necessary. So you need not have the same template to be associated with the UI view even in the other states. So let us quickly demonstrate the multiple views. Okay, so this is my simple application here where I have a01.html which is currently trying to display this kind of layout, which is very similar to SPA layout. That is, I have a header, I have a left panel, and I have a right panel which is currently having only one UI view. And that particular UI view is currently going to hold any kind of state related templates. So you can see I have specified only templates everywhere, so which means I did not specify any UI view name, and as there is no UI view name, all those templates are going to be directly injected as part of one UI view, whatever we have in place here. And you can see I have a very simple state at the very top which is called as sample01, and this state is currently trying to render the content available in msg1.html, which is defined as a simple div tag with some message and two values which are supposed to be bound from A and B, and those two values are directly fetched from the current scope using the controller name message1, and the same message1 is currently associated with that view or state. So let us quickly test this application. So I just open my Chrome here. So I'm going to specify a01.html. So let's press sample01, and now you can see I have the values 10 and 20 automatically displayed, as because those are the values which have been assigned to the scope. But our focus is not really about the controllers and scope here, but instead about the views. So in this case I did not specify any views, but as I mentioned, if you really would like to specify the views, you have the views section which can be used for your state. So in this case I would like to define a new state called sample02, and that particular sample02 is going to have a new URL in this case. So I'm going to say that sample state. So let me remove this for clarity. So this is going to be a new URL, that is the routing URL. So if I go to this routing URL, what should it do? So in this case I'm saying that please show all the views whatever I mentioned in here. And what are all the views I would like to show in this case? Are just only one view. So I do not have multiple views here, just wanted to show only one view. So in this case I am going to say please display my view content in a UI view which is not named. So in this case you can see I have a UI view, and this UI view doesn't have a name, and thus you are not providing a name also here. So if you do not specify a name, it knows that it has to search for the UI view related tag or related element which has got no name. So once it found it, then it is going to go through my configuration, which is similar to whatever we have in place earlier. So I just wanted to take care about the same kind of configuration here also. So in this case, I am going to specify please display the template content available in message 1 and associate with the same controller. So I'm trying to reuse the same existing state sample01 into a new state called sample02. However, I would like to specify the views exclusively using the views section. So once I have everything in place, I have to modify my markup in main page so that I can include and go to the sample02 page. So that is sample02 route in general. So that's a state. So I go back here, click home, refresh, and now if I click sample01, it works. Go home. If I click sample02, this also works with no issues. So in that way, you can see I can have the views to be specified in the state. So there exists a view section where you can specify all the list of views in whatever the way you want it. For example, if I would like to have another view to be defined, just wanted to show something like this. So I would like to have a new view to be defined as part of the main application. So in this case, I would like to say something like test. So this is a new UI view. So this is nothing but multiple views. I have new UI view named test, and I would like to make use of that as part of the same state sample2. So if such is the case, I can do something like test, and again I can specify my own template. So in this case, I do not really want to have a huge template, but I just would like to have an inline template to be specified, something like strong, and I can say something like testing info, and something like strong to be closed right here. So I'm saying that I am going to have an UI view which is going to have this content, and another UI view test which is specified right here, and saying that this UI view test should have the template specified as something like this. So just for our understanding, let me have an HR tag here, and let me go back here, let me clear the browser cache, go home, refresh it, and now if I click on H2, you can see I have the UI view which is unnamed is working, and at the same time the UI view with the test is also working simultaneously along with the other view. So I can have multiple views to be actually displayed one after another. Okay, so let us make this one much more efficient with respect to ajax calls and see how I can have multiple views to be displayed and so on. So let us take this to the next level by actually adding something like employees. So I would like to have a new link to be added here. So I would like to fetch the employees list right here. So I would like to have employees, and I am going to say employees right here. Okay, and now I would like to have other views to be displayed here. So for that purpose, I would like to say something like in div, and I would like to specify class equal to row. So in this case, I would like to have another div which actually works as something like the entire space. So it should be taking the entire space, and similarly I would like to have another column also which actually takes the entire space. So in this case, I would like to have div with a UI view called EMP header. And similarly, I would like to have another view to be specified here called EMP List. So now I have 4 UI views, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would like to have the content to be displayed as part of this one. So which means a new state called employees would actually be displaying the entire information into employee header and employee list. So let us see how we can achieve that. So now I need to switch to a01.js, and now I would like to have a new state to be added. And this state I am going to call as something like employees, and this employees should be always be ready once I am switching to this routing URL. So if I go to this URL, it has to switch to that state. So as part of these views, I would like to have EMP header and EMP list. Those two are the views I would like to use them. So EMP header and EMP list. So I go back here, and I am going to use something like EMP header, And as part of the EMP header, I would like to simply use another template exclusively for the EMP header as something like EMP header.html. So similarly, I would like to have the specification of EMP header. So I don't have EMP header.html for which I need to bring in. So for that, I already have my EMP header specified in this fashion. So I just wanted to bring that file right in here. So that is supposed to be pretty simple. So if I open EMP header, you can see all I have is just some kind of header tag, that is employee data, nothing much special. So if I go back here and if I actually clear this browser cache, go home, refresh this, I'm going to see employees, and now you can see I have employee data automatically displayed here. And of course I do not have the data for other two because I did not specify what to be displayed as part of those two views. And in my case, you can see I'm not specifying this or this as part of my employees, so thus those are not at all available to be displayed as part of my views. So similarly, I also need to display something as part of EMP list, where I would like to fetch some data from the database using my web service, and I would like to fetch all that information into my EMP list. So for that, the first thing is that I need to configure my view. So I'm going to say use my UIView called EMP List. So that is the UIView I'm going to specify, and I'm going to say use template URL, and as part of this template URL I'm going to say please use emplist.html. So I do not have emp.html in this case, so I need to bring in that. So in order to bring in that, as I mentioned, I already have that somewhere listed down here, so I just wanted to make use of this right here. So that is the easiest way on how I can quickly get my information. So if you open EMP list, all it has is some kind of panels and everything, so that it might look beautiful, and it has got a separate div which actually gets shown if and only if it is actually trying to load something. So if the scope has got a member called is loading, and if it is set to true, it is going to display something like loading, and if that member is not available or if it is set to false, then it is going to display this one. So in fact, in here all we are doing is displaying a table with a header and all the body with the table row actually going through all the results using the ng repeat and trying to display all the information in the form of rows right here. So I go back here into a01.js. Now I have EMP header and EMP list specified correctly, but I still need to work with the controller and the data service and so on. So the first thing is that I need to specify the controller, that is EMP list controller. And in order to work with the data service or my web services, I need to have one more JavaScript which essentially communicates with my web service, and for that purpose I already wrote data service, so I just wanted to make use of that right in my application. So if you can see my data service, you can see it is trying to reach another URL called localhost 8000 API, and it has got three methods which actually tries to get the information of all the employees or a particular employee or all the employees by the department. So all of these actually go through localhost 8000 API, and I have my web service running here through Node. So you can see it is currently listening at localhost 8000, and this web service is currently talking to my SQL server and gets all the information in the form of JSON, which is going to be directly received as part of the controller. So I need to specify and work with the controller now. So before even working with the controller, as I included data service.js, it has to be included in my markup as well. So in this case I am going to say include data service. So that is essential. So once I have that, I need to specify a new controller. So I just wanted to copy and paste the syntax here. Of course I do not need any of these two, and I need this to be always the same here because I'm working with the controller, and this controller needs to have the data service to be injected. So I go in here and then I specify data service here also. Okay, so as part of this function, the first thing is that I would like to specify is loading equals to true. So which means I'm saying that it is trying to load something as part of the web service. So I just would like to specify a member or define a member which can be used as part of my markup, which actually tries to display some kind of progress message. So this is the member which is going to be used as part of my EMP list. So you can see that is the member we are using right here and here. Okay, now using the data service, I'm going to execute my call or my web service by actually calling get employees, and I'm going to get the result in the form of variable called result. And as part of this result, I'm going to simply assign that result whatever I receive from the web service directly to a member of the scope called result, and the same result is going to be used right here. So I'm just using the same result member right there. So once I have that, which means it has completed working with the data service the moment it executes this function. So I don't need this is loading anymore. So I'm going to specify this one to false. So which means this part is going to be executed once the server call has been successfully completed. So this is pretty much what I have in place, and see how it gets executed if everything works well as part of my application. So I go back here. Go home, refresh this, and I have employees, and there you go. So I have all the list of employees directly being fetched from my SQL Server database using Node application. That is my Express application. So I have an intentional delay here for about a couple of seconds so that we can understand like how it is trying to show progress message. So I go back home, and if I click on here, you can see it is showing the progress message. So in order to make sure that that progress is really working, I have an intentional delay as part of my application. So that is my web service. Okay. So till now we have seen on how to work with multiple views here, and you can see even though I have 4 views, I am working with only 2 views. The rest of the 2 views are actually stored up, but we do not want to work with those, and those 2 are automatically gone, as because you can see I am not working or I am not specifying these 2 views in my employee state, and that's the reason those have empty content. Okay, so the next thing is that imagine I would like to have another view called as EMP detail. So which means I want that employee detail to be displayed here the moment I select one of these rows. So which means if imagine I click on this employee ID, then it has to remove this whole grid and show the details of this employee in a different format, probably more details of that employee if there exists. So which means I had to switch from this view to another view exclusively for an employee rather than the list of employees. So for that purpose, I need to create a new view which actually shows an employee detail view, and I need to modify my list as well so that it actually displays an anchor tag here which actually takes to a different route called employees 1001 or whatever, and that has to work with the new web service which actually brings down only the employee related data and finally gets in as part of the new view. So for that purpose, I'm going to actually add a new view, and I would like to call this one as EMP detail. Now you can see I have something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 views as part of my same application. Okay, so now I go back here, and I would like to specify another state, and this state is going to be called as employee details, and I would like to have a parameter to be specified for the route. So which means if there is no parameter, it actually goes with the list of employees. If you specify a parameter, then it actually comes to the employee details. So this is the new route. So as part of this, I still wanted to show the same header. So I do not want this header to be gone. So I still want this header to be made available for both of the views. So the same header I'm going to use in both of the scenarios, but I do not want this view here, but instead a new view. So I do not need employee list, but instead I am going to work with the employee detail, which is exactly what I specified right here. So now it has to work with a different template and different controller. Okay, so I do not have employee details, so I'm just going to bring that from my previous example. So I just get right here. So if I open that, you are going to see it has got some tons of code, but end of the day it actually displays only the employee related information in this fashion. That is employee number, which is bound to employee here. So all those employee related information will be brought in, and apart from that I am also going to have a back button which actually takes back to employees. You can see this is just a button which takes back to a new route called employees, and on top of that it is also displaying is loading, so which means in order to show some kind of progress while it is communicating with the server, we are just going to display is loading. And for some reason, if we are going to the new route, that is employee detail route, with some wrong employee number, I need to display something like employee not found or whatever, and that is where this is going to be taken care. So if that employee is not available, I am going to add a new member to my scope called as is not found, and once that scope member is set to true, we are going to display this information along with the button which actually takes back to employees list. So this is as simple as that. So now let us go back here and work with the employee details controller. So I need to create this. So let me copy this whole thing, and I need to rename this one to employee detail controller. Of course, let me get rid of this one. This is not going to be of much use for me. So I have $scope data service, and I'm going to work with parameters here as because my state actually has employee number, so I need to work with state parameters. So for that purpose I'm going to specify state params, which is covered in one of my previous videos. So I'm going to use state parameters here also. And before even jumping further, I also would like to specify is employee not found to be set to false by default. So this is the member what I was talking about as part of my markup. So in this case you can see I'm using is not found. So that is mainly used if and only if your specification of employee number in your routing is actually not found as part of the database. So the next thing is that I need to simply fetch the data using data service, and I have exposed get employee method which actually takes an employee number as parameter. So if you can see, get employee takes employee number as parameter, whereas get employees does not. So I need to provide the employee number, and this employee number is available through state parameters. So I'm going to say state parameters dot whatever the name of the parameter you specify there. So I'm going to use the same parameter right here, and then I'm going to specify which function to be executed. Once it has completed, it's called successfully with the servers. So that is a function which gets executed once it has completed fetching from the database. So in this case I need to specify whether it has received any data or not. For that I am going to check whether result.data.length is greater than 0 or not. So which means if it has got at least one object. So if it has got an object, then I am going to get the first object into employee. So this result can have more than one record of employees, even though technically speaking in this case I should not get more than one employee, but my web service returns collection of records. So those collection of records, whether it could be one record or multiple records, it's always a collection. So I need to go through the first item only in the collection. So I specify that by specifying data of 0, which is nothing but array of 0, or the 0th element or the first element of array will be retrieved and pushed into a member called employee, and this employee is going to be used throughout my employee details. So that is a member I am going to use everywhere, and this employee should have all the respective members like employee number, name, salary, department number, and so on. So now I have the employees set, and imagine if it has got no objects at all, which means no employees are found, then I am going to specify $scope.isNotFound set to true. So which means I am specifying that the employee is not found. So earlier we started with false, and now we are saying that it is true because no employees were found. And after that, as the loading process has been successfully completed, I have to specify this one to false. So that actually completes my controller specification and everything else. But however, there is one thing which we are missing, that is in the employee list this needs to be turned to an anchor tag. As mentioned earlier, I need to have an anchor tag here so that once I click on this, it can actually bring in more information of that employee only. So for that purpose, I will be modifying this one with the new route, that is using anchor tag, and I'm going to display the content of the anchor tag as just the ID, that is employee number. However, the href can be something like this. Of course, you can also use UISref. So in this case, I just wanted to use href here, and so I have this. So which means whatever I have in here, I'm just copying and pasting right here. So which means I'm specifying go to this new route called employees / the employee number. So that employee number, what is going to be displayed here, will also be part of the URL. And once the user clicks on that, it actually switches to this new state with this employee number. So I save everything, go back here, clear all the browser cache, go home, refresh this. Okay, now I click on employees. Now it is fetching the list of employees, and once done, you can see it has turned everything into an anchor tag, which is supposed to be automatically thrown to a different state by actually specifying something like this, employee / 1003. And now you can see I have those employees automatically displayed right here. And if I click on go back, all I'm just doing is switch to the route employees, nothing much difference there. Again, if I click on the last record, it actually switches to employee / 1006, and once I am there, it actually displays the information of that particular employee. And again, if I click back, it will be switching back to the previous state called employees. And for some reason, if you are specifying like 2001, which is not available in my list of employees, and press enter, and it tries to fetch the employee information from the database, and thus it couldn't provide any of that information at all, and it says employee not found and gives a back button or say go to employees list, and if I click back, it is going to switch back to our employees list. So in that way, you can have multiple states to be configured, and not just the states, you can also configure multiple views for each of those states and determine which view is supposed to show what kind of data whenever we switch to a particular state.